Growing your business can mean big-time logistical questions like, how are we going to keep up with all these local deliveries? Let Uber Direct offer you a helping hand. With Uber Direct, you take orders on your website, app, or by phone. Then drivers who are part of Uber's courier network pick them up from your store and deliver them to your customer's doorstep. Sounds simple, right? Delivery just got better with Uber Direct. Learn more at uberdirect.com. Why is third-party delivery so popular? Hello, this is Jonathan Mays, Editor-in-Chief of Restaurant Business. And in this week's episode of A Deeper Dive, I speak with Cameron Watt, the President and CEO of Intouch Insight. Intouch Insight is a customer experience management firm out of Canada. The firm just completed a study exclusive to Restaurant Business and its sister companies that examined the quality of third-party delivery services in the United States, both at quick service restaurants and convenience stores. The results were fascinating and help explain the growing popularity of such services, even as consumers cut back on restaurant dining overall. We talk about the results of that study, including customer satisfaction, speed, ease of use, accuracy, and other topics. And we talk about what it means for the restaurant industry. We also talk a little bit about convenience stores and consumers' perception about the prepared food being sold there. That bit is also notable. We're talking delivery on A Deeper Dive, so please check it out. All right, I'm here with Cameron Watt. Cameron, welcome to the podcast.
Glad to be here.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about InTouch, please?
Sure. Intouch Insight, we are effectively out in the world to help people provide you with a better customer experience, is how I would put it. You know, we work with companies who have locations in many, many places, you know, hundreds to thousands or at least tens, and they're trying to maintain a brand experience, a customer experience that's consistent across all those places. So that no matter where you go to your favorite restaurant or your favorite convenience store or your favorite anything, you know what you're going to get and you get it. We also help them deal with issues when they arise, and we help them track their operations and those types of things. And we do that through on-site services, such as mystery shoppers and on-site audits. We also provide customer satisfaction surveys, and we have forms and checklist automation type tools for their own employees to use. So we really have a 360-degree view for the operators of these locations but really it's about having them provide better service so that when you, Jonathan, go out in the world to do something, you have a better experience.
Right. So it helps them it helps them improve their customer service and using secret shoppers and stuff like that.
Yeah, and they of course to help improve, and when it's not when there are issues to track them down and fix them.
Mm-hmm. So I might ask you a couple of questions about that, but first I want to get to a couple of other topics. Number one, you just were at our FS Tech conference with a wonderful presentation, and you said something that I found intriguing, which is that it seems that a rapidly growing, based on what you're saying, a rapidly growing number of consumers view convenience stores as a very legitimate option to get their prepared food. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, what we asked 2 years ago, we said, hey, do you think a convenience store is a direct competitor to a quick serve restaurant? And only 44% of the people, so pretty much well under half, said yes, they did. We asked that same question this year, and 56% said absolutely. Convenience stores are a direct competitor to a quick serve restaurant. So, that's a pretty significant swing, especially when you consider that now we're well over half. Yeah. I mean, by the way, if you isolate coffee shops on their own, 2/3 of the people feel like a convenience store is a direct competitor to a coffee chain.
The bigger surprise is probably how fast that was growing. I mean, the thing is, to me, it seems like convenience stores have been, and I've had podcasts on this topic before, but if you pay any attention to social media whatsoever, you see some people really coming out with their fandom of specific convenience stores. And you got, brands such as Buc-ee's and Wawa in particular have really, really strong and loyal followings. When you see it sort of developing for other brands as well. And so I think that kind of feeds in on it. At least that's my perspective. That convenience stores. I mean, and it makes all sorts of sense if you think about it, really.
Yeah, and I also think you don't get this hairline from being young. So I can tell you that if I go back in my history, I remember convenience stores when I was growing up. If you thought about prepared food, it's not old till it's sold, right? I I I mean, it was sort of like the old when the apocalypse came. Only the convenience store food would be left, right?
Mm.
That you could still eat. And I think that they've done a really good job of changing that through not just people like Wawa have a cult following, absolutely, and they've earned it. But they've done that partly through investments in their capital product, like their locations and their capabilities to make food. They have full on kitchens in some of these convenience stores now, right? And they've got pizza ovens, and they've got it's not just an old roller grill to make hot dogs anymore. I mean, there's been investment in facilities and infrastructure, and process and procedure, and I think that they've done a really good job of investing to change that consumer behavior. These chains that we're talking about, particularly.
Hmm. So let's talk about the study on third-party delivery, which I thought was fascinating, and may or may not agree with the following statement. But I think if I could sum up the entire thing in one sentence, is that people love delivery. That's basically it. The people who order delivery from third-party services have really learned to enjoy it because it's easy, convenient, and they're clearly willing to pay the price.
Delivery has always been there, right? Particularly in food service. I mean, go back to pizza as and Asian food as the shining examples for forever now. The pandemic really escalated things. I mean, pre-pandemic, yeah, food DoorDash and Grubhub and these guys in DoorDash. Everybody was Uber Eats, pardon me. Like, don't exclude anybody. They were all out, and people were pushing, and people were trying to sell, and some people were trying it. And if you look at the demographics that use it, by the way, the younger the demographic, the more they use the third party delivery, and the younger the demographic, the more loyal they are to one form or one app that they like with third party delivery. The older people are less loyal and less likely. But when that pandemic hit, everybody became a trier, let's call it, of third party delivery. It wasn't necessarily that everybody became a fan, but everybody became a experimenter, right? Everybody tried it at least once, right? Everybody, and then people decided they liked it or they didn't like it and what the experience was and what have you. But a lot of that stuck. Not all of it stuck. It came off the peak, of course, and it's come down, and usage has come down, and it still shifts towards that younger demographic versus the older demographic for usage. But at the end of the day, it has accelerated the entry of third-party delivery to the point where now you've got some chains looking at, do they take back that delivery through first-party delivery? On the convenience side, for example, 7-Eleven has their own third-party delivery app that's first-party. Like, they've created their own delivery app to use because they have, they're big enough. They got so many locations, right? Because delivery's become so prevalent and just expected now that, hey, I might have to pay. I'll pay a service fee, but I should be able to get whatever I want, whenever I want it, where I'm standing. And the fact that Amazon Prime was built on the concept of free delivery of almost anything to wherever I want it, it's really becoming a societal thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, historically, and certainly in the restaurant and in the convenience, it's just a convenience food business, if we're being honest. Easy and convenience will almost always trump anything else. That if you make your service really easy to use and make things more convenient for the consumer, people will flock to the service. And I mean, you just think about drive-throughs, for instance. And I'm not a huge drive-through person. I mean, I'm old, Cameron, and I still like to eat inside restaurants as a matter of preference. But
Yeah.
the fact of the matter is, to the U.S. consumer, there is absolute value in that, to the point that chains like McDonald's had learned that they could actually price their burgers at a higher rate, because that's one of the reasons why McDonald's it's one of the biggest reasons why McDonald's prices have gone up as much as they have the last several years, is not just because of the pandemic, but because the fact of the matter is that drive-through, the convenience that McDonald's offers, which is, second to none in the United States. It's similar to Tim Hortons in Canada. That is that there is value in that, and I think third-party delivery is absolutely along the same lines now. That it is more expensive, and the current market right now, people are kind of cutting back, and many of us have been waiting for that time when delivery would drop off. It has not done that yet. DoorDash's order count was up 19% last quarter, still off of really strong numbers. They continue to build more business, and to me, that's why I felt the results from your study were so fascinating, because to me it just like clicked. I should have figured this out. It's just easy and convenient. I mean, the numbers, the one piece of data that just really was, that just kind of accentuated everything for me, was the ease of use number, where almost everybody pretty much that you guys use said, these are easy. I think it was,
Yeah, easy use was 97%, 98% across both sides. I think it was 98% and 97%, and it was like 99 virtually on the restaurant side, and and a little bit lower on the convenience side to kind of level out at that number. But yeah, even the app, and I mean, look, study's public. Grubhub, did the worst, right? Out of the three, DoorDash did the best. Uber Eats was in the middle, and even Grubhub, who didn't do as well across all the metrics, they were easy to use. Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, and everybody, you're right. The ease of use is definitely there. And the price, like the average menu price, and this I found interesting. If I am in my house and I place an order and say, I'll go pick it up, I'm going to pay X. And we had people check to see what it costs if they drove to, or if they had third party delivery. And that was X plus anywhere from $1.50 to $2.25 on average. Right. And that was from the restaurant side. From the convenience side, it was sometimes even higher than that. And so, there is a premium being charged out there for third-party delivery, and people are willing to pay it. You're right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anything really stand out to you? Anything surprise you about about the study?
I was surprised actually at things like how bad some of the order accuracy numbers were. The restaurants, killed the convenience stores. With a big whopping result of getting 1 out of 10 wrong. Convenience stores got almost 1 out of 4 wrong. And we only measured if they got it wrong for the food items, right? The actual items being ordered. We didn't measure whether or not they got things like, did they send a napkin? Did they send a straw? Did they send the condiments? Did they send the other things that someone might need depending where they're eating, right? And so, 1 out of 10 might be great if you're comparing to somebody who's doing worse, but getting 1 out of 10 things wrong in the restaurant business, that's not great when it's just the order accuracy. And then I combine that with the other thing that surprised me, which was, and this question, honestly, as I said when I did my presentation for you guys last week, I didn't even think we should have to ask this question, but it turns out we did. And that is, did you get the order to the right place? So never mind, did you deliver the right thing? Did you deliver it at all? Was a question that we had to ask. And the answer is not all the time. I mean, on the restaurant side, hey, I'll give DoorDash credit. They got there all the time. But I mean, Grubhub on the restaurant side missed 1 out of 20 orders, never got where it was going. It wasn't delivered to the right place. So to me, I think I was surprised. I get that it's convenient. People will pay for it. People want it. But I was surprised that we haven't maybe come farther with our processes and procedures such that people could get the thing they wanted and get it right and get it where they wanted it. Look, you're going to pay more, but at least you expect to get the thing you ordered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, DoorDash, and I mean, that was sort of a problem. I mean, I remember one time I ordered, I really had a hankering during the pandemic for pie delivery. I wanted pie delivered to my house. And so I ordered a meal with pie from Perkins. I got the meal. I didn't get the pie, and it made me annoyed. And, and their response was to, refund my order. I'm like, wait a minute. I don't want the money back. I want a pie.
Right.
Just deliver me a
This entire order was about my pie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you bring up a great point. I mean, the thing is, if I look at, not just the accuracy numbers, but the fact that customers were still generally really satisfied with the orders, especially when you look at that accuracy number, because it was what, 10%. I mean, essentially it was 90% accuracy for restaurants, 77% accuracy for convenience stores. They've got some work to do, by the way. They definitely have some work to do.
But if you look at the overall satisfaction, Jonathan, it was 91% was the overall satisfaction for restaurants, and only 80% for convenience stores. And so that doesn't come far off those numbers we just talked about. Was it just getting the darn thing right?
Yeah. I mean, that basically goes to show, that the delivery customer is going to be very forgiving of a lot of issues as long as the order is right. Because they really still like that convenience. Because you're
the
correct.
time is the other thing you have to talk about with delivery, right? And we found that people even would be forgiving with time to a point. Like for example, convenience stores on average were faster delivery than restaurants were, and yet the satisfaction is still that 11 points difference, right? Which is higher for restaurants, because even though they were faster, they weren't always faster. But it's not only time; it's accuracy, it's quality, it's temperature, it's all of those things. And we found that once you got up into that 40-minute range, over a little north of 40 minutes on average, satisfaction was going to come way down. But if you could get something there in the low 30s, you were going to be okay. Like I said, pizza places in the 80s set the expectation of 30 minutes are free, right? And at one point, and now we use all kinds of metrics around 30 minutes and different kinds of delivery metrics, and as we promote across the industries. And so time matters, but only to a threshold. Time only matters if you really get it wrong. Whereas it doesn't matter how fast you get me my wrong order. It's wrong.
Yeah. Well, that also kind of goes to the bundled delivery issue, where people really, really did not. The one thing where that also stood out to us was that when delivery orders get bundled, it obviously, one, it delays the order, and they really don't like it. And then that affects the food temperature very much negatively and things like that. And so they get really, really frustrated with that bundled delivery situation.
Yeah, you're right. Order batching, they call it, right? When you put things together, it affected food temperature. I think was 18% worse. The time was 13 and a half minutes longer, which put it over that threshold, and the satisfaction was, I think, 10 points or 11 points worse as well. So order batching, unfortunately, is something we have to live with to a certain degree as a consumer, because unless we want to pay that premium. And that's why most of the apps now have that premium. Do you want to pay more for that direct? Right. And so I think that, where we're going to see a rub in the future is as more people are like, you know what, I don't want to wait an extra 13 and a half minutes. I don't want to have cold food. I don't want these things. They're going to start saying, I'll pay the $5. Right. And that sounds great. Except what happens if everybody says, I'll pay the $5? Do we have enough people doing the delivery? Right? That we don't have a different problem on now all of a sudden, so okay, I might pay the $5 to get direct delivery, but that doesn't help if the order is going to have to wait an hour to get made or sit for half an hour on a counter waiting for a driver to show up. So there's a lot of complexities around that order batching, depending on the concept and the location. It's going to be interesting as we see how that washes out.
Yeah. I think that order batching is actually relatively common, like in like established delivery play, like pizza and whatnot. They're not just going to get one order and bring you that one order. They're picking up a couple of them and delivering them, to the, based on whatever logistics they've made the decision on. So it's a very common practice, I think. And the fact of the matter is, the delivery services kind of need the ability to batch orders to make their business a lot more efficient.
And the challenge is going to be how they can, you take a look at, like, I used to. I worked for Pizza Hut at one point in my career, and I could tell you that order batching, of course you do. Right? It's constant, but you're in control of each driver and you're in control of each order. And so every single delivery order is going to go with one of X number of drivers, and you can combine them based on geography, and you kind of do that almost manually within the restaurant. You adapt, right? Or it's third parties going to have to come up with some technology to do it as well, because if you think about it for a second, you could have 8 delivery orders coming out of the kitchen, right? And 3 could go to one place like one app, three could be another app, two could be a different app, and none of and they might be inefficient because you could have three over here, two over here, depending. Because some restaurants use more than one app, and you don't necessarily get the efficiency of being able to use geography in combination, right? Because order batching can't just be about, well, you like, oh, there's two, they're both DoorDash, you're with DoorDash, take them both. Because if one's north and one's south, that makes, from the restaurant, that makes no sense. But there is some of that, I think, still going on. And so I think we've got some fine tuning to do on the formulas part of it and the algorithmic part of it to figure out how to get more efficiency out of the order batching. I don't think it can go away because I don't think it's efficient to have it go away. But I think there's efficiency in the algorithms and process that still need to be done.
Yeah. Yeah. It's also probably a little bit in their defense. I mean, this is a still relatively young industry. Third-party delivery really only took off in late 2017, 2018. And the companies that sort of birthed them were not that much older, to be honest. And the fact that ultimately it was the satisfaction with their orders. People were generally on the restaurant side were relatively satisfied with their orders. Compared to what I understand is like sort of benchmark customer satisfaction scores inside restaurants, fast food restaurants in particular. They've generally done a good job overall so far, very, very, very quickly at getting these customer satisfaction numbers to this point, at least based on your survey.
Yeah, no, 100%. Look, I mean, we're talking about where we need to get to. It doesn't mean we haven't come a long way, right? Mm-hmm. And where you can really see it is if you just compare restaurants to convenience stores, because restaurants, of course, were in this first, right? And you're seeing them up at 99.1% for things like accuracy and satisfaction. And you're seeing convenience stores down at 77 and 80. So even within the modern time period of it, it's not even just the apps that are doing it right or doing it wrong. It's the operators and it's the operations, right? Because order accuracy, for example, has very little to do with the app. We checked to see how easy it was to customize, and almost all the apps got a very high grade. People said, yeah, we can, whatever was being allowed by the chain, had no problem dealing with it. The app was easy. The app was easy to customize. These are very new things. And I'll equate it to like air travel, for example, right? We love to complain about air travel, right? Anybody who flies complains about air travel. However, you did just experience the miracle of flight, right? You did just get from one end of the country to the other in 4.5 or 5 hours, right? But that's not all we focus on. We focus on the issues at the gate and the rude flight attendant or the what. Like we always complain about the air travel, but we just experienced the miracle of flight. And I would say it's the same thing here. To your point, Jonathan, is there room to work here? Of course there is, right? And that's the whole idea: is get better, get faster, get stronger. But we've come a long way, and the fact that you can order almost any food you want at almost any time if you can figure out which app has it, right? That's incredible. We didn't have that 10 years ago.
No. I mean, 10 years ago, even less than 10 years ago, by the way, you got pizza or Chinese, and that was roughly it.
We might have had some chicken 10 years ago. That was what
maybe.
The other one.
Yeah. But you had very, very limited options, even less than 10 years ago. And and now you can get everything, and you can go to an app, and that ultimately, to me, and the one thing they've done really from the get-go is to make that app ridiculously easy to use, and it is as much a marketplace as anything else. And I think the number that floors me more than anything else is that 15% now of Papa John's sales come from third-party delivery apps, which is mind-blowing because Papa John's has invested heavily into technology. They were one of the first restaurant chains to use an app to go do online ordering. I know Pizza Hut's done that as well, and Domino's certainly. And yet, 15% of their sales now come through these alternate marketplaces, which suggests to me that consumers are not just willing to pay for the convenience of delivery, which they certainly are, but they are willing to pay for the convenience of using a single app to shop around for whatever restaurants that they want. And that is where it's not to me. It's not all to me just about the delivery, and that's why that ease of use thing is so important. It's about the ability to go to one of these apps, shop around, and that sort of thing. And to the point where particularly younger consumers, I would imagine, just absolutely love that. And even if they have to order pizza, which they can, order just as easily by downloading the apps.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where you see it in the younger crowd, particularly demographics with some of our consumer studies. That's, I think, why a lot of younger consumers also have a favorite app. I mean, yeah, they'll order from other ones when there's really something they want, but they often have that favorite app and they don't look at it as, oh, I'm going to order from this restaurant today and they're like, I want to have dinner tonight. And they go to that app and they open that app up and they look to see what are my options. What times are they quoting right now? What's kind of available? And they look at the pictures and see what they feel like, right? They're basically shopping for dinner through their preferred app.
Cameron, this was fantastic. Really appreciate you joining me on the podcast.
It was great to be here. It's great to be at the FS Tech Conference last week, and it's great to talk to you now. And we'll look forward to seeing what the data looks like again next year.
And that should do it for this week's episode of A Deeper Dive, which was edited, as always, by Spoons. Artwork by Nico Hines. You may find this and other episodes of the podcast on our website at www.restaurantbusinessonline.com/article/deeper-dive. And you may subscribe on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. I'm Jonathan Mays, your host, podcast producer, and the editor-in-chief of Restaurant Business. Thank you for listening. Growing your business can mean big-time logistical questions like, how are we going to keep up with all these local deliveries? Let Uber Direct offer you a helping hand. With Uber Direct, you take orders on your website, app, or by phone. Then drivers who are part of Uber's courier network pick them up from your store and deliver them to your customer's doorstep. Sounds simple, right? Delivery just got better with Uber Direct. Learn more at uberdirect.com.